Hi everyone, and welcome to Jane Talks Murder, where I'll be talking about and reviewing an episode of Poirot, Murder, She Wrote, Diagnosis Murder, or Jonathan Creek. Today, I'm looking at Poirot, Hercule Poirot's Christmas. Or as I like to call it, that time I got tunnel visioned. We begin the episode in South Africa way back when, where this Indiana Jones wannabe digs for stuff, and that night, his friend shows him what he's found, so Simeon stabs him to death, which is quite frankly rude. Simeon collapses from the heat, where he's rescued by Stella, who calls him out on his diamond squabble, but they hit it off and get it on, until he decides to split. It's all Christmassy in present-day Poirot time, where Jap says he's heading for Wales, ooh, come for a visit, but gives Poirot a present first. Aww. This ominous car rocks up to this big-ass house, home of old man Simeon, who gets some diamonds before kicking everyone out, while Poirot hums and makes something, before discovering his radiator is not radiatoring, which his landlord says cannot be fixed until after Christmas.
Au revoir, Monsieur Decker.
The phone rings and it's a very grumpy Simeon who orders Poirot to come stay with him for Christmas because his life is in danger, and because Simeon's house has working heating, Poirot agrees. This woman, clearly Stella from the beginning, goes to the train station where Poirot is already on the train, and this dude, cosplaying as Bill Nye the Science Guy, sits with this lady and has a weird cryptic conversation with her where she says if she had an enemy, she would off them. Harry discovers that Pilar is actually his niece. That's nice. And these half-naked people, George and Magdalena, complain about Simeon, who goes for a little walk, while Alfred and Lydia also complain about him. Simeon eyeballs his diamonds before locking them in the safe, and Lydia and Alfred burst in demanding to know who else he's randomly invited for Christmas. And Alfred is shocked to learn Harry is coming. He and Pilar are mean about Poirot before they're all driven to the house, while Alfred writes a note in protest, which Lydia thinks is dumb. Harry greets Tressilian, who is shocked he's there, before insulting the house, while Simeon slags Poirot off to his face and then tells him to keep an eye out for something to happen. That's not helpful, but okay, whatever, dude. Simeon tells Pilar that he's done terrible things, but has enjoyed every minute, and then is a creeper before showing her his diamonds. And later, everyone has a chat, Alfred realizing who Poirot is, and then Horbury summons everyone to see Simeon. He is talking loudly on the phone about changing his will after Christmas, and then tells everyone that Pilar and Harry will be moving in for good, which means George won't get his pocket money anymore, which infuriates him. Simeon disses his late wife and then yells at them all for being worthless and not giving him a grandson, before kicking them all out. Dinner is quiet and awkward, where George says they should get a doctor, and Lydia suggests all the women peace out from this drama, while this cop shows up and Magdalena has her plotting face on. Horbury freaks out that there's a cop in the house, but then he leaves, and so does Horbury. Pilar looks ominous as everyone else sits around, and Poirot admires himself before an awful noise is heard, and they all rush upstairs to find Simeon's door locked. But don't worry, they have a plan.
Quick, battering ram!
They bust down the door, only to find Simeon dead, so lucky the police is back, and he catches Pilar tampering with evidence before saying hi to Poirot, and Pilar points out that the diamonds are gone. These people enthusiastically sing Christmas carols, which Jap is not amused by, so he's relieved when Poirot comes to get him, while George spins a theory that a crazy person got in, but Sugden says that's crap, before fanboying over Jap's arrival. He reveals that Simeon had asked him over yesterday because his diamonds were missing, but told him to go away for an hour and then come back. The key indicates that someone locked the door from the outside and the windows are stuck in a certain position, but Poirot thinks it's self-inflicted. He asks Sugden about what Pilar tried to nick, and he reveals a wooden peg and a rubber ring. Oh great, a bunch of bullshit. Horbury is jittery but says he was on a date at the time, that everything went down, and Poirot rushes to the shops to buy Jap a present, before he admires Lydia's mini gardens, and she asks him why Simeon wanted him there in the first place. She says she doesn't trust Horbury and admits she was alone at the time of the murder and was the first one to make it to the door. Speaking of the door, one of the guys said the noise was coming from Simeon's room, but how could he possibly know that from downstairs in a giant ass house? Anyway, Alfred said no one besides Simeon knew the safe combination, and Poirot and Jap discuss motives before going to talk to Pilar. She says she didn't mind Simeon and planned to be nice to him so he would include her in his will, and she too says Horbury can't be trusted. The police search around until they find the empty diamond case, and Stella comes to stare at Simeon's body, while Jap theorizes that the killer is female because the struggle indicates a weaker attacker.
Chief Inspector, you have been thinking again. I have warned you of this before.
And they question Magdalena because her suitcase held the empty diamond case, and she says she was making a call at the time. Poirot and Jap go to a pub, hey Stella, where they run into Harry, who says Simeon invited him to come home, and he reckons that the changes to the will would have included him and Pilar. Tressilian tells Poirot and Jap he's been getting feelings of deja vu, before confirming someone was on the phone at the time of the murder, and Horbury was out of the house, but also mentions how he freaked out at the mention of the police. George and Magdalena are summoned because both had claimed to be on the phone at the same time, and while George is caught in a lie, Magdalena goes all ditzy and runs away, and they guess they've all rushed off to get their story straight. Harry and Pilar play balloons, and when one pops, she realises that's one of the items she picked up from the crime scene, and Poirot freaks out, saying he's seen a ghost. Later on, Poirot runs into Magdalena, who confides in him that she wanted to use the phone to ring a male friend, but George was on the phone, so she hid until everything kicked off, and asks him not to tell her husband. Poirot goes back to the house to hear that Horbury was suspected of blackmail previously, but that couldn't be proven, and Magdalena has had many identities before they go inside, and Poirot finds the diamonds hidden in plain sight in one of Lydia's garden models. Jap goes to confront her, with Poirot dropping a package on the table as he passes, which Pilar immediately opens to find a fake mustache, and Lydia says she's not stupid enough to hide the diamonds in her own work. The will is read out, which says Alfred gets half and the rest goes to the others, but none for Pilar Estravados, bye! Harry and Lydia think she should get a share, but George and Magdalena say tough, so she's asked to leave while they argue it out. Not needing to listen to the drama, the boys investigate Simeon's room, and a pissed off Pilar decides she wants to leave, rather than be given a charitable share of the money. But then she starts screaming as they find her twatted out by a walking stick. Merry Christmas, everyone! Poirot sneaks into Pilar's room to rifle through her bag, and nose at her passport before showing it to Jap in earshot of Harry. Poirot summons them all to Pilar's room, where she admits she's actually Pilar's friend, the real one having died in Spain, and Jap accuses her of murder, but she says she saw a woman outside Simeon's door right before the murder. Poirot, as is common, goes around telling everyone why they're a suspect. George hated his father and was at risk of losing money. Magdalena had no alibi and found Simeon creepy. Alfred and Harry could have been in it together to create an alibi. Fake Pilar could have been lying again, and to skip her turn, Lydia admits it was her outside Simeon's room, as she went to confront him, but the door was locked, which was when the noises started, and no one went past her, so there was no one else in the room. Poirot says when the noises occurred, Simeon was already dead. Someone slit Simeon's throat, stole the diamonds, stacked the furniture, and rigged it up with string, which passed through the window before the killer locked the door from the outside, left the house, and pulled the furniture down using a joke balloon to mimic the sound of screaming. Poirot points out that Tressilian felt deja vu because Harry looks like his brothers and father, and takes them on a field trip to the pub where they bug Stella and ask for her son. She raised her son to hate Simeon for abandoning them, and there's a knock at the door. It's the cop, isn't it? Wow! Poirot solved the case by sticking a fake mustache onto a painting. Sugden is not a happy camper and yep, was the killer, leaving the house to commit the crime. Sugden says there's no proof, but he just attacked Poirot, so I think he's a bit stuffed. And he planted evidence to incriminate the family, and after Pilar noticed his likeness and worked out the balloon, he attacked her, but because she screamed, he had to leave the crime unfinished. Poirot and Jap head out, with Poirot giving Jap his present and refusing to wear his. Wow, okay, I love that I was completely blindsided by the outcome of this episode, because I had such a solid theory that I was so sure of that I couldn't be swayed, so the killer reveal took me by surprise. Simeon was so comically evil, everyone had alibis, he engineered them to be there, threatened to have the wheel changed, and died with hilarious over-the-top sound effects. My theory was Simeon unalived himself using a mechanism which retracted up the chimney along with the diamonds to implicate his family, and to have some posthumous revenge on them all at Christmas, with Pilar knowing of this plot, hence why she picked up the pieces of evidence at the crime scene. There were two reasons why I was so strongly attached to this theory. First, I remember an episode of CSI where Greg and Grissom are investigating a case. I think the victim is dressed like Sherlock Holmes, who gets a shout out in this episode. Anyway, they find a piece of rubber tubing up the chimney and theorize that the guy shot himself with a gun on the end of the tube, which went back up the chimney. So when Pilar found that rubber ring on the floor, I was very excited. excited. The second reason is it screamed of Knives Out, which I thought was maybe inspired by this episode, seeing as there's an old guy who invites his dysfunctional family to a celebration only to end up dead via throat slitting, which was self-inflicted, with the nurse involved who is important to the dead guy to have in his will. I really thought I had it sussed, but being very wrong means I got to be very surprised, and I liked the reveal. It was clever, even though it was obvious that Stella was hanging about. And as always, I appreciate when you can spot the clues on a rewatch. It makes for a satisfying mystery, and the trail was there throughout. Simeon really was a vile character, so it was hard to tolerate him while he was on screen or feel sorry for him in any way, but maybe that was the point. And this was one of those episodes where I struggled to keep track of the characters, especially Lydia, George, Alfred and Magdalena, but at least they were all family, so it made sense for them to be there. I enjoyed this episode despite being fixated on a very wrong theory because it was well constructed and an interesting mystery. We have two victims, Ebenezer Garrett, who was stabbed to death way back when by our first killer, Simeon Lee, because he wanted the diamonds all to himself, and Simeon Lee, who had his throat slit and then it was covered up by our second killer, Harold Sugden, who was raised to despise his deadbeat douchebag father. So there you have it. That was Hercule Poirot's Christmas. Let me know your thoughts in the comments below or come say hi on social media. If you enjoyed this video, then please hit that like button, it really does mean a lot, or consider subscribing if you want to keep investigating with me. Alternatively, feel free to check out my other YouTube channels. Thank you so much for watching, I'll speak to you soon, and keep an eye out for clues.